The Monkey Mind Podcast, your number one platform for athletes and mental health. Hosted by Danny Perez and Anthony Florentino.
This is episode 50 featuring Alyson Matteau. Alyson is a professional hockey player for the Buffalo Beauts in the National Women's Hockey League. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Daily Dose CBD Inc. Daily Dose CBD Inc. creates full-spectrum CBD products ranging from tinctures, balms, and dog treats. Research has shown that CBD has successful results in aiding in the following areas: anti-inflammation, anxiety, PTSD, help with breaking addiction, neuroprotection, epilepsy, arthritis, chronic pain, and sleeping disorders. Daily Dose makes an extremely safe and effective product that we know you will love, enjoy, and benefit from. Daily Dose has given Monkey Mind listeners 15% off all their orders. Head over to dailydosecbdinc.com and use promo code MonkeyMind15 for 15% off your purchases. That's promo code MonkeyMind15 for 15% off all your orders at dailydosecbdinc.com. Yeah, Alyson, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
If you can just introduce yourself, tell us who you are and sport you play, your journey, all that.
Yeah. Well, Alyson Matteau. I played hockey, women's hockey. I did 4 years at the University of Maine. Played on Team Canada prior to that. Played for the Buffalo Beauts in the NWHL after that. Like we just mentioned, I went to school, studied psych. I now work at a addiction treatment center, a therapy home, as a counselor. And I have a dog named Miley, my best friend, one brother. That's about it.
What kind of dog?
It's a mini golden doodle.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. No, but before we end the rest of this stuff, kind of talk about your experience in the NWHL and how that's been, and with the bubble this year and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, with the state of the world, obviously it's very different. Like everything is obviously very different. Hockey wise, it was nice to be able to get a few games in after I took a full year off after I graduated at Maine. So it was nice to be able to, just be around a team again. Like, obviously how cool it is to be around teammates all the time and just share that experience with them. And obviously the bubble experience was unique this year because it was more like a tournament. It felt like we were like kids again, like all in the same hotel room and stuff. Obviously we had to respect protocol and everything, and Lake Placid is a pretty amazing town to be able to do that. So it was pretty cool to be able to experience that.
Yeah. And you went to Northwood Prep there, obviously, with Kaylee Hutchison. She was on the podcast previous episode. How cool of an experience was that to kind of get back there and be in the old stomping grounds?
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of memories, good and bad, from that town. So it was really cool to be able to tie all those chapters in my life together and just be in that moment there. And to do that alongside my best friend was, it was just, can't make that up. It was just perfect and in its own way. And I was able to walk by our old school and just from the outside, just kind of see the grounds and everything. So that was nice to, order food from our old restaurants and little things like that, right? That were quite nice. I haven't been able to do that since I graduated from Northwood, so it's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's a cool experience. Kind of just talk about, so obviously you're in the mental health field and in that sort of space. So kind of talk about, what you're doing now specifically and some of the stuff that you've personally struggled with in the past, or, if you continue to struggle, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. To answer your first question, what I do now, I like I said, I work as a counselor in a therapy home, in an addiction treatment center. So there's a lot of mental health stuff there for sure. Not to get into any specifics or anything, but just having to do those one-on-one meetings with people who've dealt with very traumatic things, very different from the type of mental health stuff that I've had to deal with. But what working there makes me realize is that like suffering and pain and mental health, like it doesn't have a face. Like you can't measure it, like everyone suffers in their own way, and it's like I said, you can't compare it, and it's just I can relate to these people in my own way, and by that I'm able to help them, overcome certain things and try to help them see certain things in a different light with the perspective that I've gained through my own experiences and stuff. So it's really cool to tie all that together and have these people trust me to do that with them. It's and it always brings me back into my stuff, and it helps me heal my stuff as well. So it's a pretty cool environment for me to be in, actually. So
Yeah, you mentioned that you said it has no face, correct?
yeah.
I think it's kind of can tie into the fact that I think it manifests differently for everybody. And the way that people show that they're struggling is very different. Some people become very quiet and, isolate. I think majority of people tend to kind of isolate, but then you see a lot of people who are very loud, and it's almost like have very, yeah, I guess like just loud emotions and loud personalities, and that's their way of kind of pushing it down or hiding it by like the over exaggeration of like, oh, I'm fine, like,
Yeah.
the quote unquote, like, party animals, that sort of thing. And I think it's just important to be able to kind of talk about that, because I think it's hard to see in people, but if you can kind of recognize like, oh, this person's acting slightly out of character, I think it makes it easier to identify, okay, they might be having an issue, especially I think the isolation one I think is a little bit easier, but sometimes it's some of the, funniest and loudest people, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, for sure. You mentioned that. It made me think of when at Maine, like it's very easy to hide that you're not doing well in an environment where partying is extremely acceptable, if not almost like it is, like it's just a part of the culture, right? It's a big part of the experience. So, it sometimes, if you don't know someone very well, like they can they seem to be doing extremely well, but really in reality they're just trying to fill in that void and doing that in a loud manner, and
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
it's tough. Yeah.
Like I was definitely the type to kind of be like that. I like to have my fun, and I lived in the hockey house, so I kind of, it was easy for me to hide behind that sort of thing. And it's just it's funny because you're in such a close environment. I think college, like at least for me, it's the closest you'll ever be in a locker room with guys and gals, but it's also the easiest environment to hide. And I think it's a catch-22 there, where you really have to just kind of obviously keep an eye on yourself, but keep an eye on your teammates as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of just talk about some of the stuff that you've personally dealt with, and whatever you feel most comfortable sharing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll give a brief overview of me, I guess, but I came out as lesbian when I was 12, I think. Um, so that's pretty young to come out with something like that. Um, and the love and the acceptance that I received, I can't thank those people enough. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter how everyone around you is. It's what's going on the inside with that and anything else. Like, it doesn't matter what someone tells you. If you're not doing well with it, you're not doing well with it. So I had a really hard time with that, adjusting with that and accepting myself and fitting in society. And, I grew up, my father and my brother both played professional hockey. So it's a very heterosexual, male dominated environment that I grew up in. So I just felt like an outcast a lot. And, also the pressure of, I play women's hockey. My brother plays in the NHL. My father did that for his whole, like, that's what he did as a career as well. So that anxiety of, am I ever going to be good enough? I'm never going to be able to make a living out of this, but I'm just as passionate, if not more, if we're doing it for little to nothing, right? So that definitely, those are some things that have affected me, and just, I have certain issues with just overall normal generalized anxiety that came from those experiences. Just like I said, issues fitting in and everything. So that you mix that with a college experience, this like move forward a few years, I was still anxious. I was still not fully comfortable with myself. So you mix in partying with that, and it can kind of get out of hand. And it did at times get out of hand in Maine. And I definitely hid behind that And when I wasn't hiding behind that, I was isolating. I was hiding myself. I was embarrassed about things that I've done, and so it was back and forth with that a lot while I was in college. So
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I remember always just kind of seeing you around the rink and just seeing you out, outside of campus and outside of the rink, and you always just kind of seemed so calm, cool, and collected,
mhm.
and I was like, oh, like how could you possibly be like, and hearing that you were anxious that whole time, it's like how like you just seem so calm, cool, and collected, but I guess it's kind of like a way of in your way coping with
Yeah.
kind of some of the things you're going through, and um, yeah, I think when you said you came out at 12 years old, you said correct, right? So that's super young to be that self-aware
Yeah.
and to understand that this is who I am, and while you said that yeah you were struggling with personal acceptance, I have to commend you the fact that there's people who wait till they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and people who never do. So I think it's commendable that at such a young age you were able to be so self-aware and kind of recognize this is who you are. And the self-acceptance aspect, I think, is always a work in progress, and you can't beat yourself up too much for that at all. But I think like I said, it's commendable to be self-aware like that. And you see now the way things are in the world, I think we still have ways to come as far as acceptance of that sort of stuff. I know it can be hard in the athletic spectrum and the athletic world, but
Yeah,
um no, I think that's very commendable of you.
for sure. I appreciate that.
um
But this you mentioned self-acceptance. That I had my experience with self-acceptance and self-love through my sexuality, but everybody is faced with like needing to self-accept, self-love in their own ways so I had to do it. I was almost forced to do it at a younger age because I had to show I accepted myself in order to be accepted from everyone else in a way.
yep.
But I always tell like people when they say things like that, like everybody has their way of needing to find out how to self-love, self-appreciate, self-respect, like in different phases of doing that. So
Mhm. What were some of the ways that you found worked for you um on your journey of like that self-acceptance and self-love, kind of things that you found that you know that help you in coping with that and realizing that?
mhm. Well, at the beginning, I made a lot of jokes. Like I don't know if you've ever heard me. I'm very when I'm with people I don't know or whatever, I'll joke about it, my sexuality to make sure they know that they know type of thing
Hmm.
because I don't like it's just more comfortable. So for a while, I found that worked for me, just making people comfortable through like humor.
Yep.
And but then I realized that was just insecurity coming out. Like it's not funny. Like it's my reality. I don't need to joke about it to show people that I accept myself and that
Hmm.
I expect I expect that in a friendship, relationship, whatever it may be. So I kind of just flipped over that conversation to more um just being true to that. Like no need to joke about it. Obviously when there's times to joke like whatever, but just to be true to that, and by respecting myself in the conversations that I have with others, I lead I lead the conversation in the sense that I expect to be respected the way that I respect myself, right? So just like in anything, but like I said again, this is how my experience with self acceptance, but just showing what I expect and how I hope to be treated. I treat myself that way. So by
Hmm.
joking about it, people are gonna joke about it too, but it's not. It's I was sending the wrong message, but for
Hmm.
a while, that's what I needed in order to be okay, I guess. So that
Hmm.
worked for me for a while.
Yeah, I mean that makes complete sense. I mean, that's something I did. I was joking about my anxiety as well. Like I would always
Mhm.
joke about it, and then you know, as I'm sure you know, words carry weight, and like you said, there's a time and place to joke about certain stuff, and it's okay that you can feel comfortable, but at the end of the day, you're the one leading the conversation about yourself, and the words that you put out and the energy you put out, people are gonna receive that and kind of give it back to you. And if you're making jokes, it's fine, but if it's like coming off in like a negative way or just like almost like hiding something, it's not going to be beneficial for that person or for yourself in your personal growth. And I think being able to recognize that is important, but it's hard to recognize that, you want to hide behind jokes. It's easy. It keeps light of the situation, but yeah, it's just important to understand that words do carry weight, and the things that you speak out, whether if they're negative, they will come back and return, negative thoughts, negative feelings, and, negative people too, negative comments, negative remarks. So I think it's, like you said, finding that balance, finding that time and place, and just understanding that this is your reality, and, being wholeheartedly accepting of that, and not completely joking about it every time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for
hmm
sure.
How would you say, you obviously said that, you got a lot of love and acceptance from the people around you. Talk about kind of the athletic aspect of it, and, you know, being in the locker room, being around, your fellow teammates, and how that was received there, and kind of just, coping with being an athlete and going through, the mental health stuff.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think that on a team, woman or men's sport, like there's a lot of people who are struggling. It's a very, especially in college, like it's so demanding. What we do is actually like it's insane. The amount, like the work. Now that I'm out, I see it because I have so much time on my hands, and it's just like it's just so we're so packed with everything, which I think could be good for certain people because of structure and like, you're keeping busy and you're accomplishing things and everything. But I think being on a team, obviously, you're never gonna get along with everybody the same. What I found was good was I had a few people that I knew no matter what I could fall back on, and I call at any time of the day, and I built really really strong friendships and relationships and stuff throughout my years, and to this day, like I'm sure you as well, like I have my people that no matter what, like I talk to them every day still, and we help each other out, and we give each other our perspectives to, because sometimes it's just that we're in our own heads, we're struggling with something, but we need a perspective, and it's easier to get that perspective from someone we trust and that knows us. So you spend so much time when you're on a team, or you play sports or whatever, you spend so much time with these people. So I think what was important, what I did, and was I took the time to really get close to certain people, and I I think that I had a good experience with that, being able to be open and be who I was, and on my teams, I've never had any issue personally with that type of stuff, negative with any of that. So
hmm Well,
you
that's
know,
good. I think it's important to find your people. And like you said,
mhm,
college hockey is extremely demanding.
mhm,
Um, Being a college student is demanding, and being a student athlete is demanding. And I think, yeah, it's good. It sets you up for success in many ways due to the structure. I think a lot of people thrive on that. I'm definitely one of them, but it is very demanding. I think if you can find those people that you can always go to for, it's not even just like guidance or help. It's just being able to have someone that you can just get things out of your head, and just
mhm,
speak them out there, and have someone say, okay, I hear you. Like,
mhm,
I don't have the answer for you, but I hear you, and I'm here for you. I think is so crucial. And that's why I think it's important to be a good person, be a good teammate, be a good friend, and be available for people, because having that stuff kind of fester in your head is very unhealthy, and
mhm,
it that stuff compounds, and it can be super detrimental for mental health, physical health,
mhm,
and it really can deteriorate a person. So that's great that you had, your people that you could trust and
mhm.
talk to. Did you ever seek therapy, and if you did, how did you find that help for you? And if you didn't, was it just something you didn't feel comfortable with? Kind of talk about,
Mhm.
your experience with that.
Yeah. I've I mean, I've done a bunch of type of different types of therapies and stuff. I like in the second grade, I think they forced me to do anger management. 'Cause I was like punching brick walls and stuff. I was really angry, and I had a lot of pain young. Um, I've seen there's times my parents sent me when I was younger because I wasn't doing well, and at Maine, I got put on academic probation, and I had to do mandatory drug and alcohol counseling. I had to do mandatory like AA meetings, and which helped. Obviously, I was like I think any type of therapy is beneficial. Some don't fit as well with certain people, but I think that, having that scheduled time to let things out and talk to someone who's not a friend, and like have them give you tools from a neutral perspective, I think is extremely I think it should be like mandatory. I think everybody should have that option to be able to, free themselves of stuff, because we accumulate like traumas and pains throughout our lives, and then because of society is so fast paced, we don't really have time to look back on these things, right? They just accumulate, and then we wonder why we act a certain way when something triggers us. It's just like we haven't dealt with it, right? And you mix in a whole bunch of people who haven't dealt with traumas together, and it's difficult. So I've had some good experiences with therapy, like I've had some bad, but like I said before, I think it's about finding what type of therapy and what type of like person works with you. I work well with therapists who like I can like swear, like it's stupid, but that I can swear with, or that they'll swear with me. Like I like when they're to the point, and no like pity, right? I like when it's like just like I
They're
don't
real
know.
with you.
Yeah, I like when they're real with me, exactly. So that works well with me, when they can tell me like it is, and like see through my bullshit if if I like, so that works well with me personally.
Yeah, I think it's important you mentioned, the word tools, and just having someone who, is a professional in that field. I think it's so important because there is a stigma behind seeing a therapist. And I think the biggest thing is just people don't feel comfortable talking with someone they don't know, which I totally understand. But at the end of the day, first of all, there's confidentiality agreements, so they can't tell anybody. One, two, that the conversation that you have is never going to leave that office, that room, and it's never going to leave between you and that person. But like you said, the tool, they really can give you some major tools and help you kind of shift your perspective on why your thought process is that way, why, why your brain is conditioned to think in certain patterns. And it can kind of help you reshift that and change certain things, tweak certain things, or just give you a different perspective, which I think is important. You also mentioned that you've had some good experiences and some bad. I think it's another thing that it's important to talk about. Every therapist you go to isn't going to be the best therapist that you go to. I mean, the one that I see is probably great for me, but could be terrible for you. It's just a matter of finding what fits for you, and, where you're clicking with that person. Like you want someone who's real and who's going to tell you straight up, like, this is like, yeah, I see that you're bullshit. Like, this is what you're doing. Like, stop, cut the shit, like, figure it out, do this, you're doing this wrong. Some people don't need that. And some people don't feel comfortable in that situation. So I think it's important to find what works for you. Which I think is important, because I think when people struggle with mental health, they always look elsewhere for, comparison. And I think it's, that's the last thing you should do. And I think it's just all about what works for you.
No, exactly. And I always say this, but a comfort zone is good, but it's not always good. And going out of your comfort zone and try to find someone, and let's say it doesn't work the first time, you don't click with that therapist, like being uncomfortable enough to go and find another one, like I think that's extremely important, and people would be missing out if they wouldn't take that step.
That's where growth happens. Growth happens outside of the comfort zone. It's funny because as athletes, we're so willing to do, the extra work and go the extra mile for our bodies, for the sport that we love. But, they say 90% of sports and athletics is mental, but we're only focusing on 10% majority of the time. I think it's important to treat the mind with the same amount of importance, if not more. I think more, 100%, with more importance than the way we do our physical bodies, because we talked about some previous episodes. You can do all the summer training you want. You can do all the extra work, all the extra stick handling drills, power skating, whatever it is you do to develop as a player. But if you don't have the tools to be able to keep your brain in the right framework and keep your mental health in check, it all goes to nothing. Like for example, I take pride in how hard I work in the off season. my first year pro, I came home twice to see a therapist for 2 weeks at a time. So it's like, okay, I worked so hard in the summer for my body to prime myself for my first year of professional hockey. And what do I have to show for it? I'm home anyway, seeing a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't want other players to go through that same thing. I want them to just, hey, recognize ahead of time that there's something that you need to check out and do it beforehand. So that way it's not middle of the season, or, at least you have tools for the middle of the season. Which I think is important.
Yeah, it's tools. Like that's the thing. Like it's not about going to therapy for a year and then thinking you're going to be cured. It's about finding the tools that when you're having an off day, you can minimize that, right? Like it's not going to like life is about, overcoming adversity. That's all it is. Like the good doesn't exist without the bad. They coexist for a reason, and that's what's beautiful about it. Like it's minimizing the bad and like being able to get out of that quicker and healthier and without having negative coping mechanisms. Like that's what it is. And it's tools, and it's tools that work for that individual person that are important.
Yeah. I think that's a very key point. You mentioned about there's no good without the bad. They coexist, and that is what makes life beautiful. And understanding that is important. Life is all adversity, like you said, and it's not supposed to be easy. And being able to understand that there's going to be hard times and that there has to be hard times is just important. And it's just important for personal growth. And yeah, you keep harping on the personal tools that work for you. And I think can't speak on that enough. It's important to find what works for you. And experimenting with that. It takes time. I'm journaling more and more. I thought meditation was good for me, and I was trying it here and there, but I'm finding more benefits with journaling. I think just like taking those thoughts, throwing them on a piece of paper. I have a whiteboard. It's filled like a madman because I'm just like have thoughts everywhere. But it helps me kind of like, like a little less nervous and like the nervous energy. I want to go back to something you said too, not to get too off track, but you mentioned that at 2 years old, was it that you were having like anger management, was it, or?
And it was in the second grade.
I
was like 6 or 7, so I was pretty young.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I was like similar. It wasn't anger for me. It was more so just like high energy, and I would like act out physically, but it wasn't like malicious. I would just like push people and stuff like that because I was like so high. They told me, oh, it's just energy. It's just energy, and it was like super young, around the same age as you. And then all of a sudden, it started developing into like night terrors and panic attacks. And it's like that energy never really went away. It just transferred differently. I think it's important from a parental standpoint, realizing, okay, like let's monitor this because this could be something else manifesting through anger or, high energy, whatever the case is.
Interesting. Yeah.
Do you find that hockey's been a good outlet for you as far as being able to transfer that energy into something physical?
I think yes. Like short answer, yes, of course. I mean, the benefits of it are unbelievable, but also the stressors of it are unbelievable. It like we were saying earlier, it is extremely stressful, and like but again, good without bad, it doesn't exist. I think I've gotten a lot more good from the sport than I did bad. But even just like performance anxiety, like, without hockey, I wouldn't be anxious to like make breakfast. You know what I mean? I'm not anxious to mess up my eggs. Like it's not the same type of anxiety that is created in the day to day. But it's such an unbelievable feeling when it's going well, right? Like it's such a rewarding sport, and just everything that comes with it is unbelievable. Just being able to get a full scholarship to go to university and study like in school. I've never been big in school, but like I loved learning while I was there. And like sometimes when I was in it, I would complain about things. I'm like, what am I doing? Like this is such a cool like experience. And I talk to people who've never been to university or whatever, and they're such in awe. And I'm like, well, this is just in my head. I'm like, I'm not in the NHL like my brother and my dad, so it's not that big of a deal. But like I think I'm the first or second person in my whole family to go to college. Like that's pretty cool. So I try to give myself credit for that. So
definitely should give yourself credit. That's a huge accomplishment, and that's awesome.
Sure.
talk about, quickly just the shift in now being a professional in the sport and
Mhm.
kind of managing that and how that experience has been for you.
Mhm. I mean, I think taking a year off helped me um, realize, like taking a step back. I took a full year off. I wasn't working or anything. I was just raising my dog and just doing. I don't know. I don't know what I was doing, but um, what was your question? I forgot
Well,
it.
just kind of being a
Oh,
professional in the
yeah,
sport now and how that experience has been for you.
yeah. But yeah, taking that year off helped me realize certain stressors that I had and certain pressures that I put on myself in college with hockey. Um, and I've always like hockey is fun. Like I have fun at hockey, right? Like it's just fun for me. So this year I really, really try to emphasize that it's just a game. It's fun. I started this as a kid because it's fun. Like playing, like being able to play hockey with your friends, like that's so cool. And to be able to make some money out of it, like so this year I really tried to stay in my like the moment, like the present moment, not compare myself to my brother or my father or whatever, and just really it's just fun. Like just it sounds like stupid that I'm saying that, but I just tried to really remember that it's just a sport and to just try to like this season just be grateful, you know. So
Mhm.
that I was a lot less anxious around hockey this year. So that
That's good.
that
Yeah.
was nice, yeah.
You said it sounds so it's like what did you say simple was it or but like having fun with it.
Yeah.
I think it's like the most important thing.
Oh yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
not having fun with it, then what's the point of doing it? One and two, I think your success level is going to decrease because if you don't love what you're doing, if you're not passionate about it, and if you're not having fun with it, I just don't see a point. And we all
Mhm.
got into the sport because we loved it and we thought it was fun. So why does it have to change the older we get? What
Mhm.
all of a sudden be like so serious now? And like no, like it's not what it's
Yeah.
about. It's a kid's game, and you should treat it as such, and have fun and play. So I think that's a very important thing. Was this reading you took off that year was it because of um, mental health, was kind of stepping back?
Yeah, so yeah, pretty much when I like a few weeks before I graduated from Maine, my parents got divorced. Um, so and then I got kicked off the team like a week before my senior game. Um, and stuff in the relationship I was in at the time ended. Like a lot of things happened in like 3 weeks. Um, that kind of like shocked me. So there's this bit and like, and ending college is a big chapter to close. So there's just a lot of things that happened that kind of were difficult, and I wasn't ready to jump into something else and like give my time to something new. So I really took that time. Like I got my dog, that like I was saying earlier, I got my dog, and that's what I did. I put my focus into that, and I just tried to enjoy life. I was playing like I play guitar a bit. I was just playing music. I was just listening to music. I was just playing with my dog and kind of like breathing through the experience.
Hmm.
It was a super weird year. It felt surreal. I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. Not a lot of people like can, not work for a year and just like play music and
Yeah.
hang out with a dog. So
Hmm.
I'm that switched my perspective um on life completely. It was very eye-opening, and as difficult as that year was, it was one of the most blissful, peaceful like times I've ever experienced. So like good and bad were together
Yeah.
like
Of
very
course.
strongly. So
And now
um
you feel you have more, more of an appreciation for the sport and being more grateful. Which I
yeah,
think
exactly.
when you get so caught up in it, you forget to be grateful for being able to still play,
Exactly.
especially
Yeah.
at the highest level as well. So I think that's huge.
Hmm.
Um, no, that's awesome. And don't want to take up too much of your time, but just one last question.
Hmm.
Um, just a word of advice for anyone who is going through what you went through or maybe is struggling with some of the same things you struggled with. What's something that you would tell them or something that you would have wanted to know?
Mm. Um, Patience. you know, like we tend to, because of our fast society that we now live in, we tend to need to deal with things immediately or else we're not good, right? We're not good. We hit like, we're hard on ourselves. Like there's no time that things need to be solved, right? It's like we said, it's just chipping away at it and being patient with ourselves. And you know, also a big thing is balance. Like it's not all one thing. Life is constructed of many different aspects, and it's trying to, you know, balance, like spread it out. Like with hockey, like it's not just hockey, right? We have other things going on, and it's trying to just spread it out. And just, you know, life isn't that serious, right? It's like it's all good. It's all good, you
Mhm.
know, even when it's bad, like it's all good. Like very rarely do we need to deal with something immediately. Our anxiety makes us think we do, because
Mhm.
that's just what it does to our brain. But very rarely is there an immediate danger, you know. That's where that patience, I think, is extremely important to be able to overcome any hardship, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think being hard on yourself, I think as an athlete, we're all programmed to be hard on ourselves because you have to always find your flaws. Otherwise, you're not going to get better. And just, you know what I mean? So it's
Oh
like,
yeah, no, for
so I
sure.
think it's just kind of being able to understand that, yeah, I'm not going to get, I'm not going to be perfect. And
Mm.
if I am ever going to be perfect, I'm not going to get there today or tomorrow. So
Mhm.
being patient with yourself and being able to slow down,
Yeah.
I
Oh
think is
yeah.
huge, especially in how fast paced the world we live in. I think we're starting to, get that instant gratification feeling all the time. And when it comes to personal growth and personal development, I think that's not going to happen overnight at all. So
Mhm.
I think that's huge. And think, no, I think you said a lot of great things that a lot of people are going to benefit from. And um, I think you've taken a very mature approach to, how you've dealt with everything. And I commend you for everything. So thank you again so much for
Mm.
coming on and, sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you. I think what you're doing is extremely important, and not a lot of people would go out of their ways to do that. And I commend you for that. I thank you for that. I think you're gonna help a lot of people by doing that, and hopefully it'll help yourself too. You know.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, unfortunately, Flo wasn't able to be here today, but he's just as much a part of this as I am, and that's our job is to just try and help as many people as we can. So
Mhm.
you've been part of the process. This is going to help a lot of people. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.